Hey guys, it's Tim Shermack, and welcome back to another episode of the Platform Marketing Show. I'm joined today by Jaime Fearing from Wisconsin. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tim. Happy to be here.
So we were just talking here before we started the episode, and Jamie is from Reedsburg, Wisconsin, and I wasn't even familiar with that town. I was born and raised in Minnesota, and so she was kind of telling me, "Hey, it's kind of by Wisconsin Dells. It's in between Madison and La Crosse." You said South Central Wisconsin.
Yes.
What is the general population of the area that you're in?
A lot of like smaller rural towns. It's, communities of like 5 to 10,000 people around here. Obviously in the Dells, it's a little bit higher population. But most of the towns surrounding Reedsburg are, smaller towns. Baraboo's a nice sized town. Um, but yeah, it's just a nice rural farm community, so to speak.
How many people actually live in Reedsburg?
I think, let's see, it's terrible. I don't even, hang on though. Oh gosh, it's probably about 5,000, I would guess, 5 to 7.
Okay, so it's a smaller town.
It's growing a lot right now. So I would say probably closer to 7. Yeah.
And for those who aren't from the upper Midwest, how far are you from Wisconsin Dells?
Oh, like 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, so that's like the ultimate water park capital of the Midwest is Wisconsin Dells. And my family personally, when I was a little kid, took, I don't know, probably half a dozen vacations to the Wisconsin Dells
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's probably a 4 hour drive for us, something like that. And there's just multiple water parks. It's kind of like the Gatlinburg, Tennessee of Wisconsin. That's how I would describe Wisconsin Dells. If there's people out there who have been to Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, kind of the same vibe as Wisconsin Dells. But you aren't originally from the area, right? Because I see in the
No.
background.
So originally I am from the Black Hills of South Dakota,
Okay, okay,
which I love. So I have a sign in my office just
yep,
to keep me rooted, to let
yep,
me know where my roots are. So my dad rode bulls professionally for 13 years, which I know you'll love, Tim, because
okay,
I know you like rodeo.
okay,
Um, so we grew up, my parents owned a construction company. They both actually had teaching degrees, but never taught. My dad started a construction company. My mom stayed at home with us kids, and then later in life got her real estate license. So I feel like I was kind of surrounded by it, but that's not the career path I chose. I actually owned a salon for 23 years. And then at the end of 2020, I ended up breaking my arm and was kind of forced into a new career. Um, there was some things going on at home with our son with some health stuff. So I was kind of in limbo, I would say, for a couple of years. And my mom really, really encouraged me. I mean, honestly, for probably about a decade prior to that to do real estate. She was like, Jamie, you're just a natural. You would do so great at this. And to be really honest with you and transparent, I did not think that I was smart enough to do real estate. I don't know why, but I was letting this fear overtake me, and I just didn't have the confidence to go to school. Well, then when I broke my arm, I was forced to find a new career. And I thought, well, at that time, my mom was kind of thinking about maybe possibly semi retiring. She was like, you guys should move back to the hills. We'll find Jason a job and you could do real estate with me. So we actually entertained that. We've entertained the thought of moving back to the Black Hills about 4 times. And it was like every time we tried to do that, God just kind of slammed a door and was like, nope, sorry, you're not leaving. And so my husband and I were talking about it, and he said, well, what if you, just kind of pursue a real estate career here? So I didn't actually tell anyone what I was doing. Um, I was working at a gym, doing some personal training with some clients, teaching some classes. I also had an online business. I'd owned a boutique at one time. So I've kind of dabbled in a lot of different things. Um, so I I just kind of decided after a lot of, prayer, because I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And the funny thing is I had a friend that called me and she said, Jamie, I don't know if you've ever thought about this. And she lives down in Madison, or she works at a firm down in Madison. And so I actually went and interviewed with her brokers, went through this 4 interview process. They ended up hiring me. We go to this Christmas party, and I hadn't even gotten my license yet. And I said, we were driving home from the Christmas party, and my husband said, well, it's not, Madison is definitely not for me, but I can see you fitting in. You'll do great down there. And I just started crying. And I said, Jason, I don't have peace about this. I said, why would I go work in Madison when all of my relationships that I've spent building for 2 years are here? And I said, I just don't feel right about this. So he and my mom both encouraged me to call the people that I work for now. And so I called them up and I said, here's the deal. I don't have my license. I'm thinking about starting real estate. Would you guys ever hire me? And if that's a possibility, oh, by the way, I would need to know like in 24 hours because I'm supposed to start this job on Monday morning at 9 o'clock in Madison. So they called me Sunday night and they had a little family dinner and talked about it. And they said they would love to have me join their team. And so I got started. I got my license at the end of March, started in April. So yeah, I just kind of hit the floor running and here I am.
And what year was this again that you got started?
I started in 23. So last year was my first full year in real estate.
Okay, so last year was your first full year in real estate, and you
Yes.
did 13 million in sales.
Yeah.
That's really really
My
impressive. Like
mom kept
really
telling me
really impressive.
that was good, but I didn't have anything to compare it to because when I started real estate, I told myself and my brokers, I said, here's the thing about me is I said, I'm going to put my blinders on like a horse, and I'm just going to put my head down and go to work because that's what I know to do. I'm going to try so hard. And I verbalized a goal to one of my brokers. And so at the end of the year, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually going to hit this goal. And it was about, I just wanted a certain number of transactions because
Right.
in my head, I was like, if I do this many transactions, like it's kind of like the Michael Jordan theory. The repetition, you're going to get
Yep.
better at it. So
Yep.
it wasn't about a dollar amount to me. It was about repetition and just learning something in every process.
So you did 13 million in your first year. I think the year before that you said you did about 6 million, but that wasn't even a
Yeah.
full year. What is the average price point in your market?
Probably right around or right under 300,000.
Okay, so again, just to put that in perspective, to hit 13 million in sales, you're having to sell a shit ton of homes
Yeah.
if these are $300,000 homes. I always have to preface that because sometimes we have realtors in markets where all the homes are $800,000 or all the homes are
Yeah.
$1 million, and it's like, well, not that it's easy to hit 13 million in a market like that because obviously there's really stiff competition in more luxury markets like that. But to get to 13 million when you're selling $300,000 homes, that's a lot of transactions, right? So that means you were really hustling in the last year and selling, a lot of homes. So that's incredible that you hit that quickly. There are agents out there that have maybe been in the business for 10 years that have never hit 13 million in sales, and you did it in your first full calendar year as an agent. So that's incredible. Uh, Follow up question, Jamie. Have you met Sandy Smith?
So I met Sandy at the platform mastermind, and our first conversation was actually about the rodeo, and
Oh,
everybody was
okay.
talking about her pancakes. And I was like,
Yep.
oh my gosh, I'm from South Dakota originally. I was like, I really want to get to this rodeo. And she's like, oh, you got to come, try my pancakes in her sweet little Southern accent. And then her and Brandon and Shayna. And so
Yep.
I went and introduced some of myself to some of them at the mastermind. And that was probably like the highlight of my second year in real estate was going to the mastermind.
That's awesome. So I wanted to ask about Sandy because I actually didn't know until this interview. I mean, that you used to be a hairstylist.
Yeah.
Again, we don't script these interviews ahead of time. Like I don't send out questions ahead of time, so I'm finding all this out in real time. So this is fascinating to me. Sandy Smith also owned a salon and was a hairstylist
Oh,
for I think
really?
she's
I didn't know that
yeah
either.
yeah I think for like 20 years or even more before she became a realtor. And that was something we talked about when I interviewed her on the platform podcast, is that she was making a couple $100,000 a year as a stylist. And so she was nervous that getting into real estate, she's like, hey, how do I how do I replace this income? Because this isn't one of those situations where maybe I'm only making $50,000 a year, so it'll be, easy to beat that in a real estate. By the way, I just for those who are listening, I just put air quotes up when I said easy, because obviously being a real estate agent is never easy. But if you're trying to replace the income from a job where you're making 50 grand a year, it's not super difficult in real estate if you're a good agent to make $50,000 a year. But if you're coming from a job where you were already making $200,000 a year, that's a lot of money. So kind of that really ups the stakes in your real estate career. If you're like, hey, I'm moving from this other job and I need to replace 200,000, that's kind of a tough task. So were you pretty successful as a stylist, or like where was that business at? You said you owned a boutique as well. You were a personal trainer. I
Yeah,
mean, it sounds.
so I had when I originally moved to Wisconsin, I worked for a small local salon. Then I took some time off to have my kids, and then I went to work for a Great Wolf Lodge. A lot of people are familiar
Oh,
with one of those.
okay.
They
Yep.
have those over in the Dells. So I actually got offered a management position where I would go train in New York or Chicago, and then I would travel to some of the other Great Wolf Lodges and train their stylists, as well as having my own local clientele. So I did that until my son was born in 2002. He just turned 18 last Friday. And then I opened a salon at my house so that we had an unfinished basement, and then we actually sold that house, built another house, and then built my salon right at my house, specifically, knowing that this is what we were going to do. Because then I was still able to be a stay-at-home mom,
Sure.
um, but work. So if a client didn't show up, oh well, I went upstairs and did laundry. It was no big deal, and that really seemed to serve our family very well. And I was a very successful stylist. I had a great clientele, and I was probably much like Sandy. I can remember when I first started, I would make like 30 to 35,000 a year, and then obviously that income went up over the years after you've done it a couple of decades. But yeah, I mean, so to go into real estate was a pretty big jump.
Yeah, it was totally different. Totally different.
Yeah, I was shocked.
It sounds like your mom was already a real estate agent, so that
Yeah,
was
my
kind
mom's
of
been an agent out in the Northern Hills for I think 30 years. So
okay. And she knew, or you knew, Ashley Goodrich. Is that how you initially
So
got
I have
connected?
never got to meet Ashley. I was hoping to get to meet her at the mastermind, but my mom
Okay.
called me and she said, Jamie, we've got to get you, some help with marketing. And I don't know what Ashley's doing, but she's just killing it out here. So I don't remember if she actually called Ashley. She must have, because she called me and said, you need to look up this platform marketing. So I did. She told me to look up Brian Buffini and platform, but to stay away from Zillow. Don't pay for Zillow. It's not worth the money. And my mom I mean, she was like number one realtor out there for a long time, for many years. And she's very successful. So I was like, okay, my mom knows her stuff. Like, I totally respect her opinion. So I just started researching it, and I don't know, I spent a couple minutes looking, so I just decided to call. And I got a hold of Diana. She set up a call with me. I think I maybe even talked to Andrew at one point. And then I was like, okay, I'm thinking about doing this. I talked to my mom about it, and she said, Jamie, I believe in this so much that I'm going to gift this to you for Christmas this year. She goes, I'm going to pay for your first month. And the first month, if the listeners don't know this, they kind of ease you into platform. So the first month I think was $600. And I'm like, Mom, that's a really expensive gift. You don't need to do that. And she was like, nope, this is what I want to do. So my mom gifted my first month to me. And I thought, what the heck? I'm gonna jump in. That's just kind of my personality. If I decide to do something, I'm all in. So I did it, and it was seriously like the best business decision I could have ever made.
That's awesome. And you signed up about halfway through 2023, right?
Yeah, so I actually signed up in December of 23. There was maybe a couple weeks left of the year. And so
Okay.
when I got assigned to Lauren, who I love, and you guys, here's the other thing is these are actual people. Like I found out that Tim was from Minnesota and Lauren lives in Minnesota. So these are actual people that you can talk to on the phone. Um, you're not just a number in their database. Like you have a personal relationship with them. And so I can't remember who I talked to, but they're like, we're gonna team you up with Lauren. We think you guys would be a good fit. And the second we talked to each other, it was like we'd been friends forever. And I love her to death, and I'm so grateful for her. She's been awesome to work with.
Yeah. So for those listening that have no idea what we're talking about right now, uh, Jamie's account manager at Platform that she has a weekly phone call with and kind of manages all of Jamie's ads, etc. is Lauren. And so Lauren works a Platform, and as a part of Platform, Jamie has a weekly phone call. Lauren kind of holds her accountable. If you're not getting her the content she needs, or you're not following up with your leads, Lauren is kind of like your coach, right? Just that just keeps you in line and makes sure that you're doing what you need to do. So okay, I thought you had actually signed up like halfway through 2023, but apparently it's at the very end of the year. So really, like 2023 and 2024 for you are a pretty straightforward a split test where one year you didn't have Platform and the next year you had Platform. And in the year with the Platform marketing strategy, you went from again like 6 million in sales to almost 13 million.
Yeah, I think it was.
That's that's incredible. um I mean, that having that rapid of growth that quickly, uh what were some of the ads that worked really well for you? Like, are there any specific ads that stand
I
out?
do. I talked to Lauren about this, and she said, "Oh my gosh, you have to tell Tim this story." So I got a phone call. It was last fall from these people that were thinking about listing their house, and this lady used to be a realtor in Wyoming, but she said that she had seen some of my Facebook marketing ads and just really liked how I did my listing videos and things like that. So I put this ridiculous elf costume on and did a elf video for their listing tour. And it was super fun because it was leading up to kind of Christmas. And I had told them, I said, it's not, probably the best time to list a house right before the holidays, but this is the time frame they were on because they were building a home. Um, and I said, so I'm going to, try to knock this out of the park for you. So I put this elf costume on, and she had told me, she said, I'm just going to be really honest with you. My husband does not love, you know, realtors. He thinks they're not worth the money. She goes, I used to be a realtor in Wyoming, so I understand that. But, he just not a fan. So the day that I went over to shoot their listing video, they had a ring camera and they are watching me like, make this video in this ridiculous elf costume. And he gets home that night and he goes, well, I take back what I said. He goes, she's worth every penny. So that was fun. And actually, probably 10 minutes before I jumped on this call with you, I just got a guy that called me to come list his house who was a referral from these people.
Oh, awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's like the long tail effect, kind of the fuzzy ROI we talk about at
Yeah.
Platform is like that that referral didn't come from a marketing campaign or it didn't come from a lead generation campaign, but you can always trace it back to marketing that you've done, and you never know what the long-term ROI is going to be, when you just invest in creativity like that. So you've done a lot of listing videos. Have there been any other like retargeting ads or ads that just seem to really like do well in the community?
I actually recently, you guys put this challenge out to do focus on doing a small business every month. And that was something that I personally wanted to be better at and more consistent with this year as well. So for the month of February, I actually took lunch from a little local sandwich shop right next to us, a little coffee shop. Went and ordered lunch, and then I took it over to Meyer Oil. They fill LP tanks and stuff at some of our rural properties. And so I had called Amy, the owner, and I just said, hey, I want to bring you guys lunch today. Would that be okay? And I called ahead because I know that sometimes they do, they'll order lunch, or I wasn't sure how many people even worked in their office. And she was so taken back by that. I mean, she was almost in tears. And then I went and delivered this lunch, and I thought, this is crazy. Why don't we do this more often? Like you literally just get to bless people and make their day. And just the smallest amount of appreciation sometimes goes the longest way with some of these small businesses because they're not used to people giving back to them. They're used to people calling them with complaints and always asking them like, "Oh my gosh, we've got a closing and this LP tank needs to be filled in 2 days and you've got to get us in," and which actually did happen on one of my properties. And they went and filled it before the closing, and so I just wanted to say thank you and that tell them that I appreciated them. And so um, I'm already making plans for the next couple months, and I'm so excited about them. I can't wait. So that's one of my favorite retargeting things is just like focusing on the small business.
Yeah, doing highlights where you're actually promoting local small businesses in your community, where the ad or the photo or the video isn't about you, it's about a local small business, and you just happen to be kind of the host of the ad. So you mentioned that you attended the platform mastermind. It would have been back in November of last year. Um, what was that experience like? Like for someone listening, let's say, who's never been to a platform mastermind, how would you describe what it was like and what the value was for you in attending that?
So I walk in this room. Well, first of all, when you go to the mastermind, I didn't know anybody in platform, honestly. And I was super excited to meet Lauren. So I went to Florida last year, not knowing a soul. I had asked my kids, did one of them want to go with me? I asked my husband, but it was during, I think, maybe deer hunting, around deer hunting time. So that's like a national holiday in Wisconsin, if you don't know that. Um, so that was not happening. So I went by myself, which is fine. I was actually kind of looking forward to having some downtime. And you walk in this room and they have like hype music. And for me, like some of the speakers, I was just like, wow. And then I got to meet you, which I was super excited about too. Um, but one of the things that I thought was really cool is that you invite us all there. You bring all these speakers in, and I used to put on events like this on a much smaller scale, but I used to do this with my team, and it's a lot of stinking work to walk in, to like put these events together. And so Tim invites us all to this mastermind, and he doesn't charge us anything to be there. All we have to do is get there, get our hotel, our food, whatever. But there's no fee to get into this mastermind. And then we have these incredible speakers, and you're sitting in a room with like Girls with Grit and Lana Rodriguez and all of these like baller people. And I'm like, I was just blown away. And then I the first night I got there, I just sent a text. I think Lauren had sent like a group text and said to all of us that were there. And I just said, "Hey, I'm here by myself. Anybody else here by yourself? Do you want to go have dinner?" And so Carrie Denny and Erica and Vita, they were eating at one of the little restaurants, whatever, and they invited me over. And so we instantly formed this friendship. And now I'm actually on a Wednesday morning accountability call with Vita and some other girls from Platform. And it's just like the connections and the friendships you make are they're just amazing. Like it was so refreshing to be in a room where everybody is encouraging each other and giving each other like advice and tips and everything. And it was collaboration instead of competition. And that to me was amazing. I loved that.
If you had to pick just like one or two, who do you think were your favorite speakers or sessions, or like specific ideas or strategies that you took away from the event? Because I will agree with you. I think the main value in attending the platform mastermind, and I even say this as someone where I usually give a keynote every year, so I'm one of the speakers, but I think the main value is actually just meeting people and connecting with people and having those conversations, whether it's over breakfast or lunch or dinner or whatever, because your relationship within the platform and how you kind of feel like you're a true member of the community completely changes when you attend the event and get to know some of these people
Absolutely.
in person. They're like, going to Zoom calls or whatever just is not the same thing when you yeah,
It
when
will
you
never,
meet.
ever, ever replace human connection, ever.
Yes, yes. And that's why also, by the way, just as a tangent, I think realtors are going to exist forever. I don't care how good AI gets or software gets. So much of the job is about the human connection.
Yes.
And so that's why I think realtors are always going to be around. But yeah, like if you go there in person, you grab dinner, you get to talking with someone like Carrie Denny, right? Um, that transforms your relationship with platform and kind of how you think about what it means to be a platform realtor and use the platform strategy, because now it's not just my marketing company. It actually feels like you're a member of a community and a tribe, and you know agents across the country, and that to me is the real value. And then if you pick up any specific ideas from the talks, then that's just icing on the cake, right? If you
Yeah.
get some cool ideas from the conference. So with that in mind, I totally agree with you. That's the main value of attending. But were there one or two ideas from the conference, from any of the speakers, that you're like, oh, that's genius, I'm going to start doing that when I get home?
Probably the lighthouse talk, and then Lana really resonated with me with doing local community events, things like that. And because I'm such a new real estate agent, I was struggling with, I had all these ideas, but I was like, how do I put all of this together? And it, you know, you're just this single agent, like in this huge world. And so that helped me put these things, like Carrie sat next to me. And she was like, oh, I can send you what I do, And so just being able to sit next to people and listen to people like Lana. And, I think listening to her story too, of these, she didn't speak English perfectly. She was moving into new areas where nobody knew her. I mean, and having 100 transactions a year. I mean, these are people that are, they are high performers, and those are the people I want to surround myself. There's a sign in our gym. Our kind of gym motto is, "You'll results will be found in the company that you keep." And that just kind of resonated in my mind as I was sitting there, and I was like, these are the people that I want to surround myself with, because they're high performers, and they're not only that, but they're really good people. I mean, people that I would choose to be friends with, that I would want in my circle. Um, so that those two things probably really resonated with me. And then I loved hearing the progression of platform, from, because you guys just celebrated your 10-year anniversary, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to pick a couple things, because even when I'm picking the speakers for the mastermind every year, what I do is sometimes I think, who would be an interesting speaker for Tim to listen to. Like, I'm kind of selfish where I pick speakers that I think are interesting for me, because I know if it's going to scratch that intellectual itch for me, it's going to be really valuable for the rest of the room as well. So there's always so many speakers that I think, oh, that was really interesting. That was really interesting. And you end up with so many notes when you come back. And I guess the last thing I'll say about the platform mastermind here is that I'm really proud that we've been able to keep it free all these years, because I think, like, emotionally, that's what keeps it feeling like a true mastermind, because like, we are truly putting it on just to invest in community. Like, we're not making any money on the event. It's not like we're encouraging people to go so that we can increase ticket sales or something. Like,
Yeah.
we actually just lose a bunch of money on it every year. So it feels like it is kind of like a family, like, reunion every year,
Yeah.
where people are coming together and meeting friends that you probably only get to see once or twice a year. But then as soon as you see them, like, maybe you haven't seen, let's say, Carrie Denny for a whole year, and then you see her at the next mastermind, and it's like it was just last week, even though it's maybe been a full year since you've seen someone. So that's really important to me, that we have that sense of community in the group, because that's what makes platform feel different from other marketing companies that you might work with. So speaking of other marketing companies, prior to platform, and you officially joining platform as a client, were there any other marketing programs that you were doing, or have you ever done anything that worked in terms of marketing that you want to share?
No, I wasn't. I mean, I had started making reels, and just I decided, like, I was just going to be authentically myself, and it didn't matter what other people in my area were doing. I was just going to be true to me. So I would get on live and talk about a property, or I would make a reel, and so I was doing all of that on my own. And then my mom had told me about platform. I have since also joined the Girls with Grit group, just because I was looking for some better systems. But you had asked me yesterday to comment on a post about,
Oh yeah,
would you
yeah.
ever give up your territory? I was like, no, they can have one of my organs, but they're not getting my territory.
And that to me is so key to why platform works, that we have one realtor per market. Because uh if we were running similar ads and there was like another agent right in Wisconsin Dells or another agent 5 minutes away from you or something, it's like it just doesn't work as well. You know what I mean? Like you have to have that territory exclusivity. But I think most companies are just afraid to offer that because it restricts their profits so much if they have to say no to everyone. So maybe we're just the only company that's dumb enough to do that. I don't know. But I think most companies don't do it just because they're like, hey, well, we could have 1,000 clients or 10,000 clients. Why would we restrict ourselves? And my argument, because like for perspective, platform has about 300 clients right now. We don't have 10,000. We don't even have 1,000, right? We have 300 clients across the country. But the difference is the vast majority of our clients are getting really good results and they stay with us long term because of that exclusivity. If we ever got rid of that, it would go out the window and platform would just be like every other company. And that's just not a very interesting way of doing business, to me. So, okay, Jamie, I want to get back to the fact that you doubled your business in your first calendar year because that's incredible. You listed a couple of your favorite ads that have been running. How much are you spending on ads in an average month? Do you know what your ad spend is?
So when Lauren and I talked about that, she said, let's just start with like 800 to 1,000. And I was fine with that. Um, and we've always kind of kept it at that because she said it's working really well. I have thought about upping that a little bit because I know we've got some things coming down the pipeline with Google and YouTube and things like that. So I'm definitely preparing for that. Um, but yeah, I just kind of
Okay.
started with the basic package and it's worked really, really well for me.
So you would be able to honestly say that what took your business from like 6 million to 13 million is basically spending about $1,000 a month on the Facebook ads.
Yeah.
And are you regularly filming listing videos, or what do most of the ads look like for you in a given month?
I definitely try to do as many listing tours as I possibly can. I think that makes you stand out amongst your competition. There has been, some other local people that have started doing that and trying to kind of copy it or whatever, but it's okay. Like it really doesn't bother me that much because I know that I have you guys behind me who are, they know how to, run the retargeting ads and to get those people in your pipeline and your funnel. And one of the other reasons why I was super excited about, joining platform is because it takes a lot of time to edit videos and to make reels and things like that. And so, the quality time that I could have with my family was being spent at night editing videos. And my husband
Right.
was annoyed because I was always on my phone. And I was like, oh, I just got to get this done, or I got to, and so now it's created just more freedom in my schedule that I don't it's a huge thing that I don't have to stress about. So I love that part of it.
What did your mom say when you shared with her that, hey, in 1 year, in basically my first year as a realtor, I went from 6 million to 13 million? Like, what was her reaction when
Her
she found
reaction
out that?
her reaction was, well, I knew you were going to kick ass, Jamie. Like, I mean, and she's like, see, I told you you're going to do well. And she's like, I don't know why you didn't believe in yourself because, that's just my mom. She's my biggest cheerleader, always has been, probably always will be. So, yeah, she was
That's
like, I knew
awesome.
you'd kick ass.
Because truly, like I can't emphasize that enough. For in your first full calendar year as a realtor, for you to sell 13 million is just mind-boggling. I mean, again, there are agents that have been in the business for 5 years, 10
Yeah, and I
years.
didn't know. I mean, I had nothing to compare that to. I didn't know what the average, when I think I read something, maybe you guys even put it out there as a retargeting ad or something. Maybe it was Kara. I saw one of Kara's um, about how, 75% of realtors had quit doing real estate and, like being in the top 1%. And I read it and I was like, oh, well, maybe I don't suck. Because I just didn't know. I mean, that wasn't important to me. It was, I mean, now I'm very driven and I have some big goals this year, but in the beginning it was just like I want to learn as much as possible. I want to work as hard as I possibly can. Um, yeah. So
How would you, in like your own words, if there were an agent asking you about the platform marketing strategy, how would you describe the difference between a focus on lead generation versus a focus on branding? Because obviously platform is more about building a personal brand in your area. And yeah, like you get some leads, but that's not the purpose of platform. How would you describe that to someone who is asking, okay, like what is the platform strategy?
I think one of the things that I love the most is like specifically these people who did not know me. I did not know them. You go to their house, to meet them and do a listing appointment, and you feel like you're already friends because they get to see all the different aspects of my personality, of who I am, because I'm being authentically myself when I do an ad or a listing video. Sometimes I'm serious, sometimes I'm silly. They get to see all the sides of Jamie, basically. And so when we go to have these first appointments, it's like we're already friends because they feel like they already know me. And I think that just takes a lot of the pressure off. There was another lady I sold a house to. We were out of showing, and she gets out of her car and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to finally meet you!" She's like, "I see you on Facebook all the time," and so it's just, yeah, you feel like you're friends with them like instantly, and that's that's awesome.
Yeah, the whole point is that we want to warm the leads up as much as possible before they ever contact you, so that you only ever have to deal with warmer leads. Where I think what most other companies do is they're spending all of the ads budget just on generating leads, but none of the budget is allocated to actually warming up those leads. So with most other companies, Zillow included in there, like you might get a bunch of leads, but none of them are really warm, right? It all depends on your sales ability and how persuasive you are with scripts and handling objections and all this stuff. Platform takes a very different approach where it's like, hey, let's actually get like strategically fewer leads. Like we're actually intentionally, in many cases, getting you less leads than we technically could. But I want to get warmer leads where they're seeing all of these retargeting ads. So when the phone does ring or you get a message or an email, like that person has already been seeing you constantly. So hopefully it's a little bit warmer of a conversation. Uh, when did you see it or feel it? I guess is maybe the right way to ask that question. When did it feel like it was working?
So I would say I started getting comments almost right away. It was probably like around 3 months of being in, with you guys, that people were like, "Oh my gosh, I saw your video. I'm starting to see your stuff on Facebook." And so that was really when I kind of first started it. And then I would say there was a huge jump from 3 months to 9 months. Um, and, like in the beginning, I thought, okay, well, I can try anything for 6 months, no big deal. But I don't know, like knowing that they only work with one realtor per market, like I didn't, I was like, I'm not giving this up. Like, I really like these people. And then going to the mastermind and then, seeing the first full year with you guys. And it's like a no brainer. I tell people about you guys all the time. There's some other agents that I'm working with, in different areas, like kind of up north. And I'm like, you have to join this. Like, you will love this. Like, you just want to share it because it's so awesome. So if you know somebody that's not in platform, you're like, why would you not do this? So,
Yeah, I think the numbers speak for themselves. Where, if you went from 6 to 13 in 1 year, I mean that just speaks volumes. Like clearly, whatever you're doing is working, right? Have there been other agents in your town, in your community, that have noticed that you became so successful so quick? Or is there any like jealousy going on with other agents in your area?
oh yeah, oh yeah. I got a lot of hate. I still do sometimes, and I don't really care. Um, But what cracked me up the most is one of my friends that actually used to be one of my clients. She walks up to me on the street. We were getting our kids like boutonnieres or something for prom, and she was like, "Thanks a lot, Mrs. Fearing." She was like, "We had to have a meeting now that you're a real estate agent because our broker told us we need to step up our advertising game and start dressing more professionally or something like that to that effect." And and it just kind of made me chuckle. So that's when I realized like other agents were maybe paying attention, um, because I purposely don't follow what other agents are doing in my area because I didn't want to get in my I didn't want to get in a bad headspace or like get into this comparison headspace or something like that. And so
Yep.
like when
Yep.
I said I was going to put my blinders on and go to work, like I meant that. And so my husband will tease me and he'll be like, "Oh, did you see what so and so did? Oh, did you?" And I'm like, "No," and I don't care, and I'm not like it doesn't matter because I'm just staying true to who I am, and that's what matters to me. So
Are there people within the Plat fam that you like look up to? Are there maybe like a couple agents that you're like, oh, I always follow their page to see what they're doing, or this person really inspires me?
yeah, so when I first started, Seth Bailey was one that was always popping up in my
Oh yeah.
feed, and he has a really fun personality too. Um,
Yep. He's near Springfield, Missouri. Yep.
yeah, and then Kara was popping up in my feed sometimes. And so then I went and followed her because I heard about the Pink Queen. You know, everybody talks about the Pink Queen. Um, Brandon, he is in Minnesota, I believe, and I think he was,
Brandon Headland. Yep.
yes. And so probably because he's in Minnesota right next door, but I had started seeing some of his videos. So, and then Mark up in North Dakota, um, Shayna and Sioux Falls, like some of those people, and then Sandy. After I met Sandy, I went and specifically like looked her
I
up.
that is crazy to me that you guys actually met and talked to each other and it never came up that you both used to be hairstylists. Like that's okay, so there's like a couple professions. I don't know if it's something in the water or something, but like platform attracts apparently a lot of hairstylists because there's other ones besides you and Standy. There are other hairstylists that have become really successful realtors with platforms. That's totally random. We have a lot of former dental hygienists that used to be dental hygienists that are now crushing it in real estate with platform. We also have a lot of former teachers
Yes, I knew about the
that
teachers, but I didn't know
yeah,
about the dental hygienists and the stylists.
it's just such random professions that it's like interesting, um well, cool. So you're spending about $1,000 a month. Do you know how many ads you're typically running in a given month? Are you doing like 7 or 8 ads or 10 ads? Do you know?
Probably like I would say I started out doing one a week. I would like to, maybe do a little bit more. Um, but again, I think because I was getting pretty consistent listing tours, and was able to post those, she was putting more of my ad spend towards those. And then
Yep.
the retargeting ads were more of just like filling in, those other weeks. So yeah.
What would you say if you could go back, looking back on this last like year with platform, what would you do differently? Knowing what you know now, what would you do differently that might have helped you get results even faster?
So I, this is me just being me. Um, I love helping and serving other people, but sometimes I forget to serve myself. And so calling leads, Kimberly just did a call about that. Um, and then just like, I think I would love to, in reality, like schedule a day and just like mass produce all of these things and get it done in one day. But time wise, it doesn't always allow for that. And so something that I'm trying to be better at is, sometimes you have to slow down to speed up, and sometimes you need to serve yourself first before you serve others. So those would be the things that I struggle with the most because, if somebody pops in my office and needs me, I'm like, okay, like let's go. Um, and sometimes I wish I was a little bit better about like time blocking and being more selfish with my time. Honestly, that's
Yeah.
reality of real estate.
Yeah, and it really honestly only takes like half an hour a day. Um you can obviously do a lot of damage if you spend a whole hour a day doing follow up. But I think the bare minimum for most agents is like, if you could just time block 30 minutes every morning from 9 to 9:30 or whatever, 9:30 to 10, whatever. Ideally, it's in the morning before the rest of your day starts happening so that you can't use an excuse of, oh, I got too busy or whatever. Just do it first thing every morning. Do a lead follow up
Well, they
and,
wouldn't want me to call
you
them
know,
when I get up.
yeah, right. Obviously, you're not going to be calling people at like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. or 5 a.m., whatever. But first thing, ideally 9 to 9:30 a.m., something
Yeah.
like that. Doing even if that lead follow up sometimes is just emailing people back and forth or texting back and forth. I think a lot of agents just use the excuse of I'm too busy, and it's like, yeah, but it's a sales job. Like that's the job. Like you would never be a personal trainer and say I'm too busy to work out because I'm working with my clients. It's like at a certain point, the job as a personal trainer is actually just to be in good shape so that you can help other people. So if you're never, working out for yourself and you're only ever working with clients, eventually that's going to become a problem. So I think that's probably a problem for everyone, not just for you though. I think every agent deals with
Yeah.
that to some extent. Are there any ads, like specific ad ideas that you've seen other agents in the platform do that you haven't done yet but you
Yes.
want that you want to do?
Yes. I really, really, really want to do the God made a small business owner. Um, I've started filming some of that. I'm trying to get that put together, but that's like number one on my list right now.
Okay, awesome. That is one of my all-time favorite ads. I usually just say that's the most powerful platform ad script I think we've ever written. I mean, just every time we have an agent do that video, it just does so well because it obviously is just like a tribute video to small business owners in your community. The ad is not about Jamie. It's not about you as a
Mm-hmm.
realtor. It's about the small businesses in your community. So because of that, way more people are typically willing to share that ad because they're not like promoting you by sharing it. They're just promoting
Right.
small businesses in the community. But kind of the stealth thing is like, well, it's coming from your page. So every time someone shares it, they're doing advertising secretly for you. So I love that ad just as a way of, hey, we're honoring the community and quietly building your brand at the same time. You
Yeah.
know, so so that one's fun. Um, cool. Are you planning on joining us for the mastermind later this year?
Oh yeah. I well, it's you guys pick the time, and I told my husband, I was like, so the mastermind's during one of the cattle shows because our kids show cattle, and our son is a senior, and so this is like, he's going to be nearing the end of some of the stuff, but it is my least favorite cattle show of the year, and so I'm not sad that I might not be there. And I already talked to my son about it. He was like, "Mom, it's fine," but yeah, I don't know that I would ever miss a mastermind because I loved it so much and I just love connecting with all these other people. What I really want to do is I really want to go to the rodeo because I feel like
Yeah.
that's even more of an intimate setting, where you'll get to know each other even more on like a personal level. So
Yeah, and that's the last weekend of June. So
yeah, and that's going to be a tough time too because it's right before our county fair. So
it's a tough time for everyone because it's the week before the 4th of July and all that, but it's so much fun because we have no agenda. We don't have speakers or sessions or anything. It's literally just kind of a weekend camping trip that you have to bring an RV because there aren't facilities I mean, I guess you could stay at a hotel like 45 minutes away, but it's in the middle of nowhere in South Dakota. Like
yeah,
it's
like a lot of places in South Dakota.
No, I mean, but when I say it's in the middle of nowhere, I mean like the nearest town that has a gas station is still like a half an hour drive.
Yeah.
And the nearest town that would have a hotel, like even like a Hampton Inn or something like that, is like 45 minutes away. So it really is in the middle of nowhere. Almost everyone just takes an RV out and you have to have a generator because there's not hookups. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. So like you better have a generator if you want AC or power. But it's so much fun. Like we just go, we watch the rodeo at night. We hang out during the day. Sandy makes breakfast every morning and makes pancakes for everyone. We'll have a bonfire at night if there's not a lot of wind, and we'll just hang out and talk. Like there's no agenda. We're just hanging out and getting to know each other. Um, and it's fun because most companies don't get to know their clients that way. I've had conversations over the fire at a rodeo where I'm just sitting talking with a realtor who works a platform. We just talk for 90 minutes and we maybe never even mention their ads or real estate. We're just getting to know each other, hanging out, and it's just fun, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we can write it off as like a tax deductible expense because technically we're sponsoring the rodeo and technically clients are joining us makes it even better, you know, that all the whole thing is a tax deduction. So it's fun. So my family has been going to this particular rodeo for like 75 years. And it's actually a pro rodeo too. I should say that it's not just some random county fair. It's like a pro PRCA rodeo. If you said was it your dad or your husband rode bulls?
My dad was a professional bull rider for 13 years.
Yeah, so you're probably
Yeah, and actually
familiar with.
Belfouche, where I grew up,
Okay.
that is
Yep.
a big PRCA rodeo, and they actually just won Medium Rodeo of the Year out in Las Vegas at the NFR. So that was a pretty big
Awesome.
deal for my little small town. I mean, they put on quite the production during the Fourth of July. So
Yeah, yeah. That's always the crazy weekend with rodeos. Is I know we sponsor a Tanner Ross in Bareback, and that week it's just like the amount of rodeos he gets to in just that week time is absolutely nuts. Like how they have to stack their schedules to hop over to this one and then that one and then it's just nuts. I had no idea until I started getting into rodeo a couple years ago, like how hectic their schedules are. Where you see guys in like the NBA that are like, "Oh, I played Thursday night, so I can't play the Friday game." And it's like, dude, you weren't getting bucked by a horse or a bull. What do you mean, like you can't play on 24 hours rest and you're making $20 million a year? You know, as a basketball player, seeing what these rodeo athletes put themselves through
yeah, my
totally changed.
nephew actually last year at the Fourth of July, he was in the ranch rodeo, and there's this video of him getting bucked off and literally doing like a flip in the air, and he lands right on his head, gets up, his hat's still on, he like walks off. And it was so funny because I see this video come up on my, I don't remember if it was Facebook or Instagram, and it was somebody from Australia sharing it, and all the comments, I mean, there was like millions of comments on this video, and they're like, oh, this is totally AI. And I'm like, no, that was my nephew. It's real.
That's funny. No, I think rodeo. I know we're getting a little bit off topic here, but not really. I think rodeo is just like such a fun sport to watch because there's such a culture around it, and it's one of those sports where it's like when they play the national anthem beforehand, like everyone is standing up and singing, and there's
Yeah.
just this vibe at a rodeo that if you've never been to a pro rodeo, it's unlike any other professional sport. And
Yeah.
I've been to every sport. I've been to NHL games, NBA, NFL. We used to have Vikings season tickets when I was growing up, so I went to a lot of Vikings games back when they played in the Metrodome. And there's rodeo is just something special. Like it's really fun, especially when you're outdoors in the middle of nowhere. Obviously a lot of rodeos are at like
It's
arenas and
like the
whatnot now, but
epitome of Americana to me.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. This rodeo that Platform sponsors is the Crystal Springs Rodeo in South Dakota. Again, it's a pro rodeo, but it's just a giant natural bowl in the middle of nowhere, and they bring in all the gates and everything, and so there's not even seating. It's just it's a hill in the middle of nowhere that you just bring lawn chairs or blankets and you set up, and the natural slope of the hill forms a perfect stadium, and then so the rodeo is at the bottom of this natural bowl. It is just so cool. Like it's so much fun. So if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I thought I was listening to a real estate marketing podcast and they're just talking about rodeo for half an hour, come join us, and we can talk shop when you're out at the rodeo. We can talk about all the marketing and Facebook ads you want, but it's just a really good time. So uh Jamie, as we kind of start to wrap this up, um have you seen other agents in the platform uh, that have had really like explosive growth or done anything that's inspired you where you're like, hey, seeing this person's growth or that person, how they handled that ad or whatever, anyone that just inspires you seeing their before and after story?
Yeah, this at the mastermind, we all broke away and went to lunch, and I sat with Lacey from Texas, Kimberly, and Lana and Carrie, and I was just like, "Holy crap! Like these are some girls. Like these are some awesome ladies." I felt honored to, and I think Heather, is it Collier was there? She's from
Oh,
Savannah.
yep. She's from Georgia. Yep.
Um, her and her daughter were sitting with us as well, and I just felt so honored to be sitting at that table because I was like, these are some seriously amazing ladies. So
Yeah. And again, like, I'll just emphasize that you can't replicate that on a Zoom call. Like meeting people and actually sharing a lunch and talking with them in person or going out to dinner at night at the platform mastermind. Like Zoom calls are great to kind of maybe maintain relationships with people that you already know. But in terms of getting to know people, there's just nothing that like replaces in person connections.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of what we're trying to do with this lighthouse strategy that we teach realtors, right? Is like go and meet local small business owners and just stop into their boutique or restaurant or retail store, like whatever kind of business it is. um Stop into their office and just bring them lunch and say, hey, I just wanted to bless you with lunch today. I know it's hard being a small business owner. And so one thing I'm committed to this year is just like being involved in the community and trying to get to know more people. So I just wanted to bless you with lunch today. Do it. If you did something like that every week, I mean, you have no idea the impact it would make
Yeah.
on your business after 52 weeks in a year of if you bless a local small business by just buying them lunch once a week. Like at at that point, all the ads that you run on Facebook with platform, like all the retargeting ads and the lead generation ads and all that, that's just keeping you top of mind in the community. So when you do things like this, people are like, oh no, I already know you, Jamie. I know who you are. You're that realtor on Facebook, right? Like that's really what it should be, is like both of those strategies working together, all the in-person connections and the retargeting ads. So I want to ask that question too. Have you had anyone tell you like in real life, "Oh, I know you, Jamie. You're that realtor from Facebook."
Yeah. That, I mean, honestly, like when I told him that earlier, like it kind of started immediately. I mean, obviously, I've lived in Reedsburg for probably roughly around 25 years now, but so there was obviously people that knew who I was. Um, but now wherever you go, you're just like, oh, you always get that, or hey, I see your videos all over Facebook, or I really like your videos. And there was another, like last summer, I was driving back from a showing and I got this phone call. And this lady would not tell me who she was, wouldn't tell me her name. But she told me that their family had a farm that they were going to be selling. And so she wanted to ask me a few questions. So I pulled over on the side of the road, answered her questions. And I was just really honest with her because she was like, well, how long have you been doing real estate? And I said, like, a year. um, and then and I said, but you have teamed up with platform marketing and my ads. I mean, now they're getting like typically around 80,000 views. I think back then it was like 30 to 50, probably. It was more of the average. But she wouldn't tell me anything about this property, wouldn't tell me where it was. Well, I got a phone call from her this fall, and she told me that they were going to be interviewing for realtors. And she finally gave me the address, and I looked up this address, and it's up in the Baraboo Bluffs. It's like 100 acres. And
Wow.
I'm sure it's going to be over $1 million. It's surrounded by like state parks, and so anyway, she said, well, I really like your marketing. It has really stood out to me, and that was someone that I had no idea was even watching me. So when they talk about the fuzzy ROI, those are the things. I mean, I've had multiple situations like that where they have been watching me. I have no idea who they are, but they're watching my ads or my listing videos. And then, like today, I got this phone call before Tim and I got on here, and it was a referral from the guy that didn't like realtors and didn't think we were worth the money. I mean, so it's things like that that you're like, okay, this is working and this is doing exactly what it needs to do. Um, and I love that you guys just let us be authentically who we are, and that we get to build our own brand. It's not like you're trying to make it fit into some little box. It's we truly just get to be ourselves and to run our business the way that we want to. That's true to us. So I love that.
That's what I think marketing should be. Like marketing by definition is about just letting the public know who you are, what makes you unique. And then if someone doesn't want to work with you because of that, like that's great because they probably would have been a bad client to work with
Right.
anyways,
Yeah.
right? So if your marketing is actually authentically communicating who you are, what your values are, what's important to you, is family important to you, is sports important to you, is faith or church important to you? I don't know. Is dance important to you? Is farming important to you? Is whatever hobbies you might have, fashion or whatever, right? Like, put that out there and have that become part of your brand, because then you're going to attract like-minded people.
Yeah.
And people are also much more likely to refer their friends to you if they know your values and what's important to you, because that's what makes people want to refer. There's, even in a small town, there's often hundreds of realtors,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not like people don't know a competent realtor that knows how to be a realtor, but people want to know that they're working with a realtor that is like them in
Mm-hmm.
some way or another. They're like them. You share some sort of affinities or hobbies or interests or values in life, and they just need to feel more comfortable working with you than maybe the two or three other realtors in their sphere or in their network that they already know. And that's the last thought I'll leave us with here, is that everyone knows three or four realtors already at a minimum, right? And so your job isn't to necessarily position yourself as being the best realtor in the whole community. You just have to be a more interesting realtor than the three or four people that they already know, so that of those three or four people, they choose you, right? That's all marketing
Yes.
has to be. Like, you don't have to be the most famous, the best. You just need to put a vibe out there where that it gives people the warm fuzzies that of the three or four realtors they know, that Jaime is the one they choose when it really comes down to it. That's the goal of marketing. And obviously, you've been accomplishing that in the last year.
Yeah.
Well, Jaime, thank you for your time today. This was great. I'll give you the last word. If there's any last advice that you want to share with people who are wanting to grow their real estate business.
So I have a plaque in my office that says, "Be so confident in God's plan that you don't get upset when things don't go your way." And that was kind of my motto when I started real estate. And I, I guess for anybody that's thinking about it, please reach out to any of us. Like, you can personally message any of us. I can't remember who talked about it, but he said he, immediately got online and started Googling platform. And he goes, I couldn't find anything negative about them. And that has been my experience. Is it has been nothing but, it sounds stupid, but it has been rainbows and sunshines. And I love this company, and I love the people. I love what they stand for. I can't say enough good things about this. And they, like, Tim is a genius. I mean, this man is so smart, it's crazy. And so, like, when you get in a room with all of these people, your mind is going to be blown, and you're going to know that you're supposed to be there. So I would just tell anybody, if you have any, like, hint of a thing, anything, like, just do it. Just go for it, because I really don't know anybody that this does not work for unless they're not doing the work. So,
Jaime, would you mind sharing your cell phone in case anyone wants to call you or text you?
yeah, my cell phone is 608-963-0057, and I am in Wisconsin. So,
All right, Jaime, thank you again for your time, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of the Platform Marketing Show.
awesome. Thank you so much, Jim.